Welcome back, everyone, to yet another exciting session coming up this afternoon for all of you. I would like to thank all of you for being a part of the 16th Marketing Conclave organized by Internet and Mobile Association of India, powered by Z5. Without any further delay, I would like to commence with our next session for the day, a panel discussion on the topic, ensuring the quality of medium. For the same, I would like to welcome our moderator, Ms. Neena Dasgupta, CEO and Director, Zirca Digital Solutions. Welcome, ma'am. And our esteemed panelists, Mr. Abhinandan Sekhri, co-founder, Newslaundry, Mr. Sanjay Sindhwani, Chief Executive Officer, The Indian Express Online Media, and Ms. Sweta Aggarwall, Chief Marketing Officer, State Bank of India. We'd like to welcome all of you. I would now request Neena ma'am to please take over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining in. While we speak about the quality of the medium, I can tell you I've started with a glitch in the quality itself. Such is life. My camera is not working, so I'm sorry for depriving you of not being able to see me. But we'll try and moderate and use the quality of the voice and the intellect of all of the participants. So welcome everyone, and thank you participants and panelists for joining in. This topic is an interesting topic because it depends significantly on how you define quality as a medium. If I have to start talking about that, for instance, I think each of the panelists have their own definition when they're describing quality. Why don't we start, Abhinandan, with you? What, according to you, is quality? When you say quality of the medium, what does it mean for you? Abhinandan, you're on mute.
When we talk about, thank you so much. For we quality, let's define the medium. So I'm guessing what is news. Often I see in conversations around digital information and stuff. So news and content are news as a part of content is a little different. When it comes to quality of news, I would say news has various definitions, especially in liberal democracies, and among them is a public service that should serve the public in public interest. It is something that keeps power in check. It questions those in power. It gives access. It has to be accurate. It has to be so that in many other aspects are determinants of the quality of the medium, which in this case.
Great, interesting. That's an interesting view. You have kind of defined. You have put an attribute ability relates to news and its content, and whether it has the ability to spark a debate, raise the right questions, and generate enough engagement with great quality content. So you have used content as a great part of quality. Sanjay, for you, meaning Indian Express Online, print significant quality was always revered as a great quality news reporting from its print days, where people give money to get content to today digital. What do you see as quality of the medium? You have multiple mediums.
So I think when we talk about the media, one is your own platforms today, and those are things that we control. So what I publish on my website and how it is delivered to my audience is one aspect of the news that we produce. The other is when this news gets distributed or discovered on alternate media, which could be search, which could be social, this could be peer-to-peer, or this could be a social network. And I think when we talk about the quality of the media, you have to look at all of these aspects to it. Because what happens is, in today's world, with personalization, with AI and ML and the algorithms running out, what is presented to the reader at the end of the day, right, is the context that he carries or absorbs from it. And we all know that, with personalization, we are also seeing the development of echo chambers, of rabbit holes, where people get to see and read more of what they are interested in. It reinforces their beliefs and opinions. So, you're producing quality content, you will be doing a 360-degree coverage of any topic through all different lenses. But users see and perceive may only be what they want to believe or what they like. So I think while the quality of content is one aspect of this discussion today, I think the aspect that we should be looking at is, how it is disseminated and how it is being consumed by the reader, because that's where it really kind of creates the impact.
Thanks so much. And that's another interesting view. From one side, we heard about truth and the quality of news, the content itself being quality. To the other part, saying that relevance from user lens and reader lens, the relevance in relation to their contextual environment mindset becomes quality, but also the entire infrastructure and the entire technology that is ensuring that relevance is constantly is understood and maintained by using various parameters of discoverability, social. Now we have heard from Abhinandan and Sanjay, who are creators of content and disseminators of content. I want to hear from you, Sweta. When we look at quality of the medium from a market lens, what does quality of the medium mean to a marketer?
Firstly, thanks Neena and thanks IMI. And it's a very interesting topic, it's a topic which I think everybody speaks about. It's a long debated topic. So the perspective of marketers' lens, which normally comes in, is in terms of a two-way interactive content. How do you interact with that? One is a way of how is the feedback mechanism is there. How are you listening to the customers, to the content you place? And basis those feedbacks, basis the insights, the content are regenerated. So it could be happen that a content which is relevant for a customer A may not be a relevant belong to a homogeneous group. So as rightly highlighted the point, it is relevance is a very important thing, that how this is personalized to me. When I'm reading a content, how this is giving value to me. That is one big aspect which marketers definitely look forward, and we I personally practice this, that every content needs to be driven by a strong insight to provide what customer wants to hear, what customer can utilize it, and how they could consume it. That is the one lens we follow with it. The second lens, which is very important for any marketer, because you're making a sharp investments to it. So there's an economics paradigm which comes into it. How do you get into measuring their content? How are your customers engaging with your content? So that is a second lens, which is a marketer will definitely look forward, and economics definitely adds value to it. So because for investments, there has to be some returns coming to it. So this is how we perceive the quality of a content.
Okay, thanks, Sweta. And participants and panelists, it's very interesting to hear a marketer's view, because on one side is the entire approach of the content to keep your user engaged, to ensure that you've got enough meat and enough truth, enough integrity and honesty in the content that you're bringing. On the other side, we have the lens of performance. So Sweta, we look at feedback mechanism and then create content which you believe is relevant to a consumer mindset, or whether it's through the lens of ROI, eventually performance. What you're saying is, for you, the quality of medium is defined by truly the performance that comes with you and gives you a direction. Continue engaging your consumer in a meaningful way. That is quality of medium, right? I summarized it well enough, Shweta. Okay. Now this topic really is very wide, but if we look at here all the three panelists, what we have actually come down to finally is that there is only the lens of the user, subscriber, and the lens of the consumer. It is all about the individual and the relevance. But what therefore drives the quality when it comes to the user and when it comes to the consumer, right? It is not only about generating the content. It is also about having the ability, the money, the economics, like Shweta said, the economics to continue doing so. So, I mean, you have taken a very, very strong stand. You are a subscription-driven model entirely, great content. Degree from Hansraj, canteen from Hindu ka canteen, that kind of, I think, set the context for you getting into journalism and politics, the right place. Great content. I still love the Manoj Tiwari interview the most, right? For everyone's safety, I'll not say which party he belongs to. But from that, you believe subscription could be the model that will drive engagement, but money plays a role, right, in maintaining quality. How do you plan to get subscribers, and how do you plan to continue maintaining quality with that model?
So I think that news has to be seen as separate from content is because the quality of news has a very different kind of connotation as opposed to other content. Like, we just heard that how much are users engaging with it, how much are users, is this the kind of stuff that they want to watch now?
Not the
The
user,
online
the
space.
consumer. See, when is the consumer? You are talking to the user, actually. I think that's a
Yeah.
distinct difference. Yeah.
Now, for me, the user and consumer are the same. The user of my product is also the consumer of news. Now, if advertising is your model, then your user and consumer may be different people. And who are you going to serve? Are you serving the user or are you serving the consumer? I'll give you a simple
Correct.
example. I had created last year a list of 10 things that break the internet. So that included Kim Kardashian balancing a champagne glass on her behind. It included a serial killer in one of the Nordic countries who was very good looking. It included 10 bits of news which had no public interest whatsoever.
Hmm.
But they broke the internet. So if you look at all content the same, then there's no incentive for people to do this because it is easy to get traffic on stuff that has no public interest. Fundamentally, it will change an organization's approach to news. How you are actually looking, what you are making. And as far as that is concerned, I think that segmentation is very important because when traffic becomes a sole metric, sell to get advertisers, the user, your entire what you are trying to do, the entire system, the architecture of your product will go to maximize that. And that is why I think the broadcast in the news, and I think broadcast in the news space is a classic example of market failure. And so it's studied economics. What we found was that the market is the best way to optimize resources. Resource allocation is found best by the market and also price discovery. So the market is discovering resource allocation and gives the consumer the best it quality of the product. Broadcast news industry is a classic case of more manufacturers coming reducing the quality of the product, and that is news a classic market failure, and therefore studied as a case study of how the classical logic of economics and market that we study doesn't work in when you're selling water. That's why privatizing water is such a huge issue around the world. While telecom and service must be done privately because it does in the US of that their market failures occurring there. News world over is a classic market failure. Why users, consumers have to be the same. If they're not the same, that's market failure.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant theory of economics, meaning you've literally brought in the market, resource allocation. Of course, and these are great points, Abhinandan. However, uh, a user and a consumer are where two different. One is one. Both of them are choices, which are very distinct choices. One choice is what news do I even what news do I trust, like you said, right? Classic examples are the BBC, The Economist, who have managed to maintain the quality of what you're speaking in terms of, and also have managed to possibly have resource allocation and beat markets. So our However, the economics of our current market is what you're challenging. So, with that, probably let me ask Sanjay. Sanjay, you have been
Just one
quite
BBC, the BBC doesn't depend on the market, Neena. The BBC funding is very different. It's not market dependent.
it's significant. The BBC commercial division is market dependent, other than
Sure.
the one which is other than the one which is funded by the Queen, funded by the people, the amount of money. But look at the economy. Look at the Guardian. Look at the Reuters. There are instances. Look at New Yorker. Look at New York Times. They find point which is subscription revenue and advertising revenue. They've played the economics of the market, like you mentioned. Possibly, the country is yet to arrive at that economics of the market, where resource allocation becomes, as you're mentioning, right? But that brings me to the point with Sanjay, which is Indian Express. Been there for years. We have always seen that the user and consumer, while being same, also wear different hats because of the performance. What Sweta said, right? How have you managed to Sanjay, balance that part where you don't challenge the user's intelligence by giving him content that is not relevant, by ensuring a finer difference of between news and content, like Abhinandan mentioned. There is a fine difference between news and content. And how have you managed to keep your reader engaged?
So, one, I think because of the audio, I could comprehend parts of your comment. So I'll
Yeah.
of certain things that you were saying and try to answer that. So, if I understand the question correctly, how do we at Indian Express maintain the right balance between content and news and between the consumer and the user? I think that's what.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's about your ethos as an organization. Where do you place your priorities? I think at Indian Express, we've always stood for the kind of journalism that people appreciate us for, and we realize that whether it is our consumers or whether it is our readers, they all come to us for the stance that we take as a journalistic entity, and therefore you will find that there's a very clear thought in our strategic thinking of what brings revenue to us and what brings readers to us. And there's an alignment there, very clear alignment. And therefore, there have been instances where we have walked away from advertising deals which do not pass the scrutiny of our ethos, which do not pass the scrutiny of what we stand for. And so far, we've been in good stead. But I also agree with Abhinandan that the media model is right now broken, especially, broadcast is pretty bad shape. Print so far is holding good, but I think COVID is kind of putting it to test. And the digital is still to kind of come up with an alternate way. The way I look at things, most digital entities will now increasingly veer towards a subscription model, right? And as they go in that direction, this contradictory stance between, let's say, so-called consumer and a reader will automatically start to vanish. And when you talk of entities like, The Economist or the New York Times, they have all gone through that phase. Their newspaper model was heavily ad dependent. Their model got disrupted because of digital, because those economies are more developed and ahead of us in the curve. And over a period of last 20 years, they have developed a very reader-centric model driven by subscriptions where ads have a smaller play in their business model. I think the ecosystem is going to move in that direction. It would have I would have said, it would take another 5 to 10 years to get there. But I think COVID is going to accelerate that process. And today I know within my industry, everybody's looking at subscriptions with such business which was missing 6 months ago, right? And 6 months ago, it was, we'll do it. We have time. We have another 5 years, 7 years, 4 years, but we have time. I think today I see the kind of urgency that everybody is talking about, and they realize that what is popular, right, is not necessarily what is going to convert to paying subscribers. Different media organizations are at a different point on this matrix of loyal readers versus casual readers. So casual is what, popular content brings you from search and social, and regular is what your direct readers come to you every day and, consume your content. So I think those mixes are going to change. The model is going evolve. And I think if we do a similar conversation 3 to 5 years down the line, I think the conversation will be on a very different note.
Yeah, possibly. We had our readers paying for newspaper, which according to me is one of the oldest models of subscription. Whether however, it wasn't so in broadcasting. Actually, if you look at the broadcasting business, still the paid model came. Subscription of paid viewers. So print, digital, of course, the willingness is smaller because the discovery of content is easy from search social, and that's the challenge. Even an NYT or an economist, I know, all of them are facing this challenge in terms of number of people who go behind the paywall and then subscribe, right? Given that challenge, Sanjay, for instance, there are instances that Indian Express has less content because responding to the demand of the market, and also talking to people like Sweta, right, who are expecting performance while also expecting feedback mechanism. How do you respond to that scenario where subscription hasn't happened yet, content is getting compromised, the quality of content is getting compromised by headlines that are coming saying, eat this berry and grow your hair. Those things are next to probably an extremely intelligent and intellectual content. How are you going to control quality then?
So I think the definition of quality is defined by the consumer, right? So Abhinandan mentioned, the most popular stories from last year, the most popular content, so to speak. So what happens is different people at different points of time have needs for different kind of news and content, right? I don't want to read serious content all the time. I don't want to be in my intellectual state, a heavy state all the time. Sometimes I want to, have and consume lighter content. So as a reader, as a avid reader, sometimes I'm reading jokes, sometimes I'm watching fun videos, sometimes I'm reading serious op-ed pieces. So I think to classify a reader and say he's a very straitjacketed person, he's always serious, he's always looking for a certain kind of content itself, I think is unfair to the reader itself. So as a publisher, as a news aggregator, as a content publisher, I cater to different needs of the user at different points of time. I'm not constrained by space, right? Print has space constraint. So you said, I will only give you this much, which is most relevant, most important to the most number of people. And that's how the print product got defined. When you have a medium like digital, where you have the flexibility of choosing what formats you want to deliver, you have the ability to deliver as much content as you want to deliver. I think we have the opportunity to cater to the different moods and different needs of the same consumer and different sets of consumers. And that is what we are doing.
Which is already happening, right? Every news,
Yes.
Why we call it news, there are very few news destinations that are probably only sharing news. And news doesn't need to be serious. News is interesting analysis, is also great content. It's also information.
I disagree on how you are defining news or content or the consumer in this case. And I'll tell you how I disagree. I'm at no point putting the burden on the individual that you should only consume news that is of public service. I think that is a classic case of, cliches like, "Hum to wahi de rahe hain jo janta de rahi hai." I like junk food and Uncle Chips gives me that. But I like protein bar. Another manufacturer makes that. It becomes everything that I end up being nothing. What I'm saying is, no point. I only want one kind of thing in life. I want to watch a Satyajit film or a film. I want to watch Dabangas, of course. But will the same person give me everything? And if the same person gives me everything, will the pursuit of that person in short gives me the best? If my pursuit is box office, I will get the biggest stars, have the biggest spectacles, and I love that. But your pursuit determines what you produce. And what I'm saying is, I'm at no point saying that consumers only want serious things. I'm saying the economics in a world that has internet. See, when we had the printing press and broadcast, technology prohibited specialization. because it was a one-way communication.
Yeah.
Why those models were there? That technology has proved. It's like saying that once a printing press is invented, I'll still only shout from rooftops. No, you can publish and distribute them.
Yeah.
How we approach content, what is new, what is the economics of that? What is content, what is the economics of that? What is other stuff, what is the economics of that? Now this technology allows us to explore each of those. And I think if you bundle all of them together, I don't think I mean, clear on that. Yeah.
No,
So
when
I,
you bundle all of it, see, when you bundle all of it, you give birth to a horizontal portal, right? Which is the purpose of a horizontal portal, which is a little bit of everything, and not really the work of news-oriented destinations. Yeah, but Shweta, let me ask you. Meaning, you have heard Abhinandan and Sanjay speak about one talking from a market response point of view, because the burden of advertising on subscription both rest on Sanjay, and also digital transformation with a huge base. On the other hand, we had Abhinandan, who is dealing purely on subscription revenue. My content and my quality must drive the subscription, right? How would you choose essentially your quality when you're talking to Sanjay, and the way you're moving into digital transformation slowly? Will you be open to paying a premium? Actually, what both Sanjay and Abhinandan are somewhere saying, in terms of saying that my engagement with the consumer and the user needs to start responding. Are you willing to pay a premium for quality?
Before I just come up to your question of your make premium for a quality, I just want to reiterate just what give an example, and which is a very valid example. We all are aware of this is a demonetization. When demonetization happened, overnight things changed in the country. The content, the news, the way we perceive things, everything changed. So it's neither there for in that period, since I was very, very closely part of the demonetization and I worked very, very closely with all the entire ecosystem. So the how the news was generated, how it was disseminated, then how the consumers consumed it, all changed the way. And what COVID did is just add to it. So what the lesson we learned that point of time is, there is no disruption or there is no transformations happening. It is complementing each other. A digital and print started complementing each other. And when we say about complementing, that the aspect comes in. What should I pay for which medium? Because what set of consumers lives on what medium? Now, if I know my consumer spends more time on a medium like or digital and all, then I'm ready. The marketer, we are ready to spend a lot of premium amount to engage those premium audience. But if I know I have a mass reach and I have to tackle those inclusive kind of segment, I will go for a mass media which is an offline, which is a print level. So rather than just segregating things, we started complementing these things, and this is what emerged out very strongly during demonetization period.
But which still keeps quality at the helm of it, meaning whether you're going mass or whether you're going premium. Also, I think things like demonetization and COVID, we are linking to consumption, but I think it only impacted the choices of consumption, the format, possibly the time of consumption. Your affinity to content, your affinity to the kind of content that nature, like internet breaking stories, continue to remain the same, right? And I think it only brought to life and brought in front the need for digital transformation and how people are consuming content on digital. But the inherent need of quality remains the same, whether you're at a mass level or at a premium level. And I think today most of the quality gets eroded when the pressure of performance, and the pressure that Abhinandan right now is not bearing, but Sanjay possibly is bearing when his demand team is coming and telling him that I need to deliver a lead performance and I need to give value add content to my client, right? He has said that I'll give you 5 lakh in media, give me 5 pieces of content written free. That's when you start eroding the quality of content, right? The quality of the medium and also the resultant performance. So, do you believe the way of engagement, the way of buying, or the way of transaction needs to evolve to keep the quality of the medium intact?
Neena, in this, I want to add the point that wherein it's not the quality which is getting eroded. It is what the consumers are looking for, or what consumers may not even speak up. Like we talk about the implied needs. Now, if I know during demonetization example, there was plethora of digital payments existing in the market, but no consumer doesn't know how to use them. They all were driven by a cash-driven economy. They know I have cash, I can know it, but how to use a mobile, how to use internet banking, how to walk into an ATM. There was a lot of education series happen. So with that education series, if consumer starts demanding, I want this, that also that is important of the medium and the quality, because then we know that this is what the consumer's implied understanding is, implied inherent what they're looking for. And then we start harping on that this is the medium to use. Here I have to put in a quality thing because this is where I need my consumers to come in. And this is where I want them to be engaged, and
But
then they
it's,
start preparing for it.
yeah, it's interesting that you're using a regularly used destination to possibly teach your consumer, right? While the purpose of the destination is to deliver great value content, and that's a compromise at times, I believe, such as possibly your demand team asks of you. How do you deal with that? Because every brand wants to become a publisher, and you have the luxury of that.
So I think for ages brands have been telling stories and they've been using different media to tell their stories, right? And media companies basically the publishers provide a platform to tell those stories, right? That story can be in the form of an ad, which is a image or a static. It could be a video or it could be a string of text put together. As long as you are transparent to your readers and saying this is paid content, right? I think that's a fair game. If I put content which is paid on my website and do not label it as sponsored or paid or brought in association with my partner, I think that's where the problem starts. So as a policy, and again, as I said, different media houses will have different set of standards. You cannot control everybody. But at Express, we have very clear guidelines on this front where we label all advertisements. Even banner ads are labeled. We forget content. Even banner ads carry the label advertisements. And this is something which is, the industry best practice. If you want your content to surface on search, these are recommendations from Google, which most leading publishers follow. And it's very clearly marked out that, this part is ad and this part of this thing. But the point is, and happening in the future, you'll see ad-free models emerging, where readers who opt not to look at ads can pay premium and access adless environments in which there is no paid content, there are no paid ads of any format. And I think we need to understand where as a market do we exist, right? We say, okay, the print has been in existence for a long time and people have been subscribing to it. Look at the price that people pay for most print products. The largest products are sold at about 2 rupees, 3 rupees or 4 rupees per day. Right? It doesn't even cover, 1/4 of the cost of the newsprint on which the newspapers are printed. So, have been subsidizing content, the access for readers to access good content for a very long time, right? And expect a nation where majority of the people are below, cannot afford 2 square meals, to really kind of say, okay, we'll sell newspapers or we'll price content at a very high price. I don't think that model is going to work here. So as an economy, as we evolve, as our GDP grows, as the purchasing power of our audience becomes larger, as readers become more discerning, I think more and more people having an ability to pay. And as they move in that direction, that itself will become a very strong check on quality, because then the distinction between your customer and your reader will be very, very distinct. I think what will happen is when advertisers want to target, assuming that the paid product is not an ad-free product, but it's a paid product per se, which the reader is paying for, the cost of reaching out to that audience will also be much higher, because it will be a closed garden. The filed user, it will be a paying filtered user. Right? Today we say India has 400 million, 500 million, internet reach. But what is the paying capacity of those audiences? Right? If you look at the transacting audience, we're talking about no more than 50 million people who really transact and who are of value to a very large set of advertisers. set of advertisers are consuming free content on bandwidth is really cheap on devices which are really, low cost and effective. It has created a huge media ecosystem, but which thrives on free. And when it comes on free, who's footing the bill? Ultimately, all the advertising that gets loaded onto this content that is footing the bill.
Well, probably to some extent, and probably it's also probably impacting the user base eventually, right? Because the user base is going to get compromised, right? So we are towards the close of this session and end of the session. We have had a very interesting discussion. And I think where it eventually comes down to my what I hear and what I believe in is quality can be maintained when you drive towards subscription-driven revenue entirely. And when people are willing to pay for access to great information, great news, great content, and are also willing, marketers are willing to pay great premium to co-create content that is of value, right, to the users and to the base, right? So let's have the last closing words from each one of Abhinandan. What's something that you are going to focus on in the next 12 months and, to ensure that the quality of your medium stays intact and that you continue giving value to your subscribers?
I think for me it's pretty simple because we are a small team. I don't need hundreds and thousands of subscribers to keep us afloat, and I need a few thousand, and I have a few thousand. So I think the real challenge is not for me going out. It's for people, like Express, who are organizations, have thousands of employees, thousands of salaries to pay, and for them, I think one would really have to live coming up with solutions. It's simple. It's a subscription-driven enterprise, and I can sustain myself on subscriptions. But a lot of us can't. And one important thing, and like I said, I don't think anyone has answers. And also, when you horizontal portal that is, that is catering to everyone. I mean, it's not a rule that is what a portal should be. I mean, everyone's just figuring it out here. So we shouldn't take anything as a given that this is what it is. There is no it is. We have to figure out what it is. But I'll just give you with this one trick. When Newslaundry started in 2012, the zero ads, CPI or CPM, whatever you call it, clicks, it used to be 350, 400 rupees. Today, if I'm not wrong, how much is it, Sanjay? What, 12 rupees, 15 rupees on YouTube?
Yeah, lesser than that, probably. Yeah.
So it's gone from 350 to 12 rupees. I'm curious to know what logic anyone has that it'll go back up. It'll continue. Where will it settle? And once it settles there, if earlier you needed 1 million people to break even, now you need 10 million in 5 years. Million? Where is it from?
That's where the economics comes in, of course, and one needs to weigh in, and you're right. Sanjay, your last words. But Abhinandan has said that the challenge lies with larger organizations such as yourself. Cost is a big element.
Yeah, so I think he's partly right, but it's also that we have that scale in terms of audience reach.
These are the summary statements, yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, just to kind of point out, organizations like us, which have a very strong print pedigree, we've been doing quality content for the last 80 years. So we continue to do that. We've only expanded the bucket and the volume of that content, right? People come to us because of quality, right? And I don't think subscriptions are going to trigger that, but yes, subscriptions will enable us to increase the volume of the quality content that we are doing.
Great. Yeah, so subscription is the answer. Clearly, Sweta, last points from you. Subscription is the model that is emerging slowly. And I know you've been really doing innovation and something very differently in SBI. Salespeople have really applauded with what work you are doing. So what is your stance? Meaning, how are you going to enable great quality and publishers to strive with great quality where it is a combined model of ad and subscription?
Neena, simple things what we are working on is in two things: is demand and supply situation. Simple economics what we follow is what the demand of the market is and what are we supply, what kind of content are we supplying to them. So ensuring that the quality is retained, ensuring that the platform is reached to them, and the next step what we are moving now towards is we are trying to get the content which is highly personalized, and it's meant for individual, not for the group. So that is what we are actually using AI and ML and applying the content on individual level, ensuring the quality is only meant for me and only me. That is what we are moving towards now.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, IMI. I think we very clearly hear that quality of medium requires subscription, a drive towards subscription model. Of course, advertising will continue, but also from a marketer's perspective, it needs to become more personalized. And digital is going to play a significant role in personalization via AI, ML, and all various technologies. They say AI, ML, various new technologies. Yeah. So thank you for joining us on this panel. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, IMAI.
Thank you, Neena ma'am. Thank you to all the panelists. This was a brilliant session. Despite the technical hindrances, this was very interactive. Thank you so much. Thank you to the audience. We will be joining back with yet another session very soon. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.